Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the shop. As you can see, it's a bit of a work in progress, but it was a lot worse back when I first saw the place. Here it is back in February. The previous tenant restores wooden windows, so the place is full of his stuff, and it's got extra temporary rooms for finishing and sanding. He was really great about getting everything out of here and giving me a clean slate. Well, clean is kind of a relative term here. The empty shop is dark like a cave. The back room is even worse. This place needs a ton of help to be a woodwork shop and filming studio. The first thing is to hang LED lights all throughout the back room. Spacing them out and wiring them up takes the better part of a day, but the result really puts a smile on my face. Now that we have that light, we can see problem number 2. There's this enormous, depression, I guess, in the middle of the floor. It's a 7-inch step down to a hard concrete pad, and it's right where I want to put my workbench and most of my hand tool stuff. Fun fact, this place used to be a small ceramics factory, probably back in the 1940s, and the kiln was in this back room. It vented to an enormous metal chimney up on the roof, and the kiln itself sat down underneath the floor on the concrete slab. Apparently, if you're running a huge industrial furnace, you don't want it sitting on a wood floor. Swear to God, the previous tenant said to me, "Oh, that dip in the floor? That's no big deal. I only fell once." Personally, I would like to take 0 falls down onto a concrete slab. So I hired Chris. He's a professional framing carpenter. Between the two of us, we're going to have this section framed in and leveled flush with the rest of the floor in 2 days. Now I'm sure you're thinking, wait a second, Rex, can't you just do this yourself? And no, I absolutely cannot. I am a terrible carpenter. So when I have a job like this to do, I hire a pro and I'm just the helper. Chris handled all the technical parts of the job, while I did things like cutting lumber and moving materials. I did the grunt work and paid close attention so I could build my skills. Chris works fast and very precisely. He also owns a bunch of tools that I don't. Watching him work, I was glad I didn't try to tackle this job by myself. It took us about a day to frame in the new section and then start on the sheet goods. The first layer is OSB because it's cheap and you can buy it with a tongue and groove edge. Perfect for subflooring. Once the whole thing was decked with OSB, we finished it off with plywood. These sheets are rotated 90 degrees, so the seams between the different layers are all perpendicular. The existing floor has a very uneven edge, so here's Chris scribing that wavy line onto our first sheet of ply. That line gets cut with a jigsaw, a perfect tool for cutting curves in sheet goods, and we get a nice fit with the existing floor. Once we fitted the first 2 sheets, carrying the plywood across the floor was simple, and we just had to do a couple of cutouts to fit the chimney and work around the furnace. The last step was nailing through both layers into the joists. This construction gave me a floor that was strong enough for machinery, but springy enough to stand on all day. I've been working on a concrete floor for years, and my knees need a break. The next day, I came back with a gallon of exterior grade, high traffic paint and finished the floor. This plywood is way too bright on camera, and unfinished wood is really annoying when you spill a can of polyurethane. This floor paint only needs a single coat with no primer. It was exactly the amount of effort I wanted to put into this project. And just like that, I'm ready to move in. Well, it'll be ready to move in once I get packed. And packing a shop is kind of like packing a small house. An extremely dirty house where all of the furniture is made out of cast iron. So, just like with building the floor, I got smart and hired some help. This is Brannon. He's a mechanical engineering student and an amateur bodybuilder. So, he's a perfect helper. And boy, do I need help. You see, I figured out I was moving back in February, and I pretty much gave up on cleaning or organizing the shop. So it's a complete disaster, and I've been here for 5 years with no intention of moving, so I am totally dug into this space. There is crap everywhere, tools everywhere, and a lot of junk that just needs to be thrown away. Brannon and I started small, packing up all the hand tools and small stuff that was laying around. Then we moved on to the clamps, trying to keep things organized for fast unpacking on the other side. Brannon packed up all the little pieces of wood I use for turning. Moving the little stuff gave us access to the machines, and we spent a full day breaking them down into smaller pieces. This is the major downside of working in a basement. You're limited on what tools you can get down there, and moving anything out means disassembling it. All the parts are heavy, and many of them are fragile. The whole thing is boring and stressful, which is a lousy combination. Next came the wood. I don't keep a ton of wood on hand, but everything had to be divided up into manageable bundles with the ends taped. You really want to make things easy for the movers, so they finish on time and you avoid extra charges. The last thing was the workbenches. Ever since I built the English joiner's bench, I've been telling people that it comes apart for transport, but I never actually tested that out until today. When the legs came off and the whole thing was folded up, I was relieved. Last was the original low Roman bench. At 8 feet long, it was too big to come out of the basement, and I can't leave it where it's just going to get in the way. So we cut it in half and got rid of it. I've thought about this for a long time, and I'm totally sure it was the right thing to do. And after 3 tedious and filthy days, every piece of the shop was boxed up, disassembled, bundled, and ready to go. We even moved a bunch of stuff up to the garage so the movers could just grab and throw it in the truck. It was a good plan. Except the movers didn't actually show up. At all. They just didn't show up. So I spent some time on the phone. I guess I should say I spent some time yelling into the phone. That's more accurate. After some discussion, I figured out that the mover had a labor shortage that day. A couple other guys just didn't show up to work. Eventually, they offered to come out the following day and give me a substantial discount on the bill. So it could have been a lot worse. The following day, they did show up right on time, and the rest of the move was uneventful. I am officially too old and too tired to do this move by myself, and hiring professional movers was a huge relief. These guys are used to moving things that are big, heavy, fragile, and valuable. They looked at the machines, the tools, the stacks of wood, and didn't even blink. It's all normal stuff for them, and most of the guys on the crew had moved workshops before. I was ready to jump in and help out, but I didn't have to. When we got to the new shop, things were really easy. My new building is all on the ground floor, so there are no stairs or awkward turns. And I've got a garage door now, so everything comes in with no trouble. When you hire professionals, you pretty much get to sit back and watch the place fill up with stuff. I've been in my other shop for so long that it's weird to see my tools and benches in a new place. The whole thing is definitely going to take some getting used to, but everything made it here in one piece. It's all done. Which means the other shop is now completely empty. It's so empty, I expect to see tumbleweeds blowing across it. Seeing the basement like this reminds me of when I first moved in, when this channel had barely started and it wasn't even a business yet. I'll be honest, seeing it emptied out like this is a little bit emotional, but it's also the start of a whole new chapter. So there's one more thing I haven't touched on yet. Money. And money is honestly the biggest factor in a move like this. So next week, I'm going to do an entire video just about the economics of moving out of your house and into a commercial space. I'm going to give you all the real numbers for this space, the rent, the utilities, the costs to move and renovate, all of it. And then on top of that, I'm going to talk about real estate and how you can run an effective search for a shop. I've been looking for a space like this for over a year, and I actually used to work in real estate, like 3 lifetimes ago. So I have a lot of tips and tricks for finding a good spot like this, a good home for your shop. While we're on the subject, I highly recommend you check out Walter Sorrells. He's one of my favorite knife makers on YouTube. He recently moved into a shop and did a whole series of really informative videos about it. And also Mark Spagnolo, the Wood Whisperer. Right now, Mark is looking for a shop. He's trying to buy a whole new house for him and his family with a shop on the same property. He hasn't moved yet. He's still in the search phase, and his whole series of videos on this really super interesting. Finally, a lot of you have commented that this space is very echoey, and I know because I'm here and I have ears. It's really obvious. I'm going to do something about the echo, but first I have to move in all the machinery and furniture. That's going to change the acoustics of the space. Once that stuff settles down, I can start doing some treatment to the walls and ceilings and cut down on all this extra reverb. But that's not going to happen soon. So the audio is just going to be a little echoey for the next couple of weeks. I really hope you'll bear with me. Thanks as always to my patrons, my channel members, my viewers, you watching this video right now. Thank you for helping to make all of this possible. I never expected to be in a place like this, and it's YouTube and my channel and my patrons. They've made it possible, and I'm really grateful. I hope everybody has a great week. See you soon.